Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
All right, welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I am here with Dr. Rhee. We have a very interesting topic today, one that I think most people kind of struggle with more often than they'll probably admit publicly. And that is the battle between your body image and performance when it comes to exercise and working out. I've talked to a lot of people about my goals. I know my own. I've talked to a lot of people about their goals. I know my own goals. And I do think everyone has a mix of both, especially within CrossFit, but even for those that are listening that don't do CrossFit. I have a couple cousins that listen that don't do CrossFit. That's why I said that. I'm like, why do they don't all have to be about CrossFit. But I do think a lot of people work out because they want to look a certain way. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I think all of us do to a certain degree. And I think I like this topic because there's so much to unpack in this one.
Yep.
I bet you will hit different aspects of it in the future as well.
Yep.
But boy, I mean, self-esteem, body image,
confidence,
performance.
Yeah, I remember thinking I think I started working out for that reason, right? Like when I first started to really work out, I think I was 19 years old. And I wanted to look different.
I think every high school boy who starts working out, that's the reason.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, you get that. You get that first bicep chest pump after chest and biceps day. You're like, damn, nice. But we have to make sure before we really dive into the weeds on this that neither one of us really have negative thoughts towards either one. We're not judging anyone that is simply here, just wants to look good. If that's the only reason you work out, more power to you. If you're only here to work out because you want to perform a certain way, nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely not. I think if you look at athletes in general, I was just thinking about it, for example, Serena Williams or Tom Brady, do you think their self-image is based on how they look or what their athletic performance is?
Yep. Right.
It's on their athletic performance.
100%.
And, and then there are tons of other athletes out there. You have to look good in order to feel good about yourself.
Right.
But the good thing is that CrossFit allows you to do both at the same time.
And I think a lot of exercise programs do. And I want to get, what is body image? What are we talking about? What is looking good? Because at the end of the day, it's a very subjective term, and that's what I'm going to kind of get into later in terms of how dangerous this can get. But I hope that, we can all be on the same page that body image and looking good versus looking bad is what you think of yourself. What do you want? Is it low body fat? Is it big muscles? I know a lot of guys, especially, that they don't want to be cut up. They want to just be huge. They want to have they want their shoulders big, their chest big, their quads and hamstrings to be huge. They don't really care about how many abs you can see when you take off the shirt, where I also know some guys that are the complete opposite. They don't want to get too big. And I know a lot of women that they don't want to get too big, but they want to look lean.
I think, I do a lot of on-ramping for beginners.
Yes.
And I think one of the most interesting things is asking people, athletes, why are they looking to start CrossFit?
Right.
And I think it's for both reasons. I think there are a lot of people who say, I don't like my gut.
Yep.
I don't like, the way I look doughy.
Right.
Then there are others who are like, I used to be a really good athlete.
Right.
I used to perform really well. Mm-hmm. Now I don't.
Yeah, they're used to hitting certain metrics, whether it's on the football field, the baseball field, the softball field, they're used to performing at a certain level that makes them feel good, or they get attention for it. And I think that's one of the that's what I really mean about performance. When you are exercising for performance, especially at a place like CrossFit, especially at a place where they write down your results on a whiteboard every day for the entire world to see, that's where they're drawn to that, because if they work hard and do well, they see compared to other people, they're doing really well.
I think the good thing is that CrossFit is unique as a exercise modality and performance modality where we can look at both things. For example, if you're a power lifter, most of them are not particularly involved with aesthetics.
Right.
It's mostly function.
Right.
How much can you deadlift, bench?
And I do think a lot of them are proud of how they look.
But that look shows that they can perform.
Right.
The performance drives the look.
Right.
And then if you look at the other end with bodybuilding, it's all about a certain aesthetic, but they don't really care what their performance is in the gym. It's just how developed do these certain muscles look.
Yes.
But in CrossFit, we have the luxury of being able to be functional.
Yes.
Perform.
Go for scores.
But it makes us look.
Yes.
Good.
Yes. Yeah. I know. I always, some friends and family that I have outside of Bison, they just see stuff on Instagram. You know, when they see people from our gym, they're like, who are these people? You know, and it's like a lot of them are pictures. So they don't even see the performance aspect of it. They might see a heavy barbell or, you know, someone on top of a pull-up bar. Like, how'd you get up there? Did you jump? Like, no, they pulled themselves up there. But it's the look. They look amazing, but they're also performing these outstanding feats of fitness that, you know, to be honest, most people cannot do.
And I think also the aesthetic is changing. And the stereotype of CrossFit is because there are a lot of women who think CrossFit looks bulky, blah, blah, blah. But then now you look at these games athletes and you look at a Haley Adams.
Right.
Is she bulky?
Yeah.
No, she's not bulky at all.
Yeah.
She's skinny.
Yeah. If you saw her walking down the street in New York City with, you know, fully clothed and everything,
right,
you wouldn't think anything about bulk.
Right. So
it wouldn't even cross your mind.
Right. So I think, you know, the more people learn about CrossFit, the more we see these athletes, the more we see that some of the stereotypes about body image are not true.
Right. So I do think that, you know, we should talk about some of the dangers of chasing after a certain look or a certain body image, and also the dangers of chasing after performance. I think there's pros and cons to both. And I think that you guys can realize right now that Sam and I are kind of on the same page, that CrossFit does allow for the pursuit of both simultaneously. But I do think that if you really put someone in a corner and said, like, all right, pick one, which do you care more about? Everyone has one way they lean more towards.
Absolutely.
All right. And again, I'm going to say this a second time. There's nothing that's right or wrong about either one of them. But I do think we should just have a conversation about some of the negatives that can come from chasing after body image and some of the negatives that can come after performance. And then we'll get into the positives. You know, let's keep in mind, I'm talking to a plastic surgeon right here.
And I'm talking to an athlete.
A meathead, yeah. So, again, I think this is a good topic for Sam and I to discuss. One of the dangers I have for chasing body image, and I'll be honest about this, I've struggled with this in the past, and I've gotten past this as I've gotten deeper into the sport. So this is more like pre-CrossFit, but I was chasing after very superficial gratification that I thought I would get from other people, right? Like you walk into a room or you go somewhere and it's like, oh, you look amazing. Like that made you feel good, right? Like that would, and the second you got that feeling from someone, or you felt like someone was like a girl was checking you out, even though she probably wasn't.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. But you know, you start putting a lot of thought and energy into that. Like, how do you look? You know, if you take your shirt off, how do you like? You know, we can probably get into a funny conversation about that. But that's what for a long time, I would say from like age 18 to 23, before I really got into performance related CrossFit. That was that I think that drove me too much.
I think it drives everybody. And I think no matter how old you are, validation from others, particularly about how you look, is always in the back of your mind.
For sure.
There are very few people I can think of that truly do not get that little dopamine hit or that feeling when someone compliments you on your looks. Right. What is social media for most people? It's posting a body image and getting likes because of it.
Right.
So there's no doubt that, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like we're built to be human. We're built to socially interact, and we like praise. And a lot of praise is often directed towards our physical appearance. It can be extremely negative if you start overvaluing it,
right,
or changing what you do because of it in some self-defeatist or negative ways,
right.
But you know, how deep have people gone down that rabbit hole of just because they cared about something that means nothing?
Yeah, and I think that I hope that everyone gets this at some point. Like I do think we've put so much thought and energy into what others think that at the end of the day, I do strongly believe most people don't really care that much about how good or how bad you look. They might notice it, but you're the one that's going home and thinking about it all night, where the people that you're stressing about, do they think I look good? Do I think that they thought about it for about 7 seconds and then they went on to their own life?
I mean, listen, I choose clothes that I think make me look good.
Yes.
But you know, and people do things in their behavior to make themselves look good for others.
Right.
But how far do you take that where you're chasing that, what you called it, superficial gratification,
Right.
that ultimately is not helping you?
Right.
I think most of us have to take a good look at ourselves and say, okay, we do care about ourselves. We do care about what others think of us and how we look. How far down that rabbit hole are we going?
Yeah. And I think that it's hard to self-answer that, right? Like, I think it helps to have some people in your life that, whether they're friends, family, training partners, coaches, people that aren't going to be overly biased towards or against you, to just be honest about. Like, I think it's a good conversation to have, you know, and it's an uncomfortable conversation to have. You know, like if I've asked Sam this several times, and I've always said this, I have a unique friendship with Sam, you know, where I do feel like we can be very honest with each other, even to the point where one of us kind of gets annoyed at that initial answer, but we know that we're both there for each other, and the intentions are to help you out. And I've had Sam say a few things to me over the past years, like I'll ask him a tough question that is uncomfortable probably him for an answer. And I think it's important to have someone in your life. All right, am I overdoing this right now?
I wonder how many times you've gotten annoyed by my answers. By the way you say that.
On to the next topic.
But you're right. You're right. And
having real people in your life.
Yes.
Having real people in your life, I think, is really important, because I see this all the time at Bison, all the time. And I'm telling you, when I say all the time, I could every day. I think people get so judgmental of themselves. Like, when they're in a mindset where they feel like they look good, they come in, they're smiling, they warm up, they take the warm up seriously, they're in tune with what the coach is, they work hard, they move well, they're giving high fives after class. I'm like, and that's like ideal, right? When they're not happy with themselves because they're up 5 pounds, they went on vacation, they gained 5-10 pounds, they feel fluffy, they lollygag, low energy, negative mindset. They don't say hi to anybody. They don't warm up that well. They don't try that hard, and they get hurt. And then it's all of a sudden they go down to this, again, like you said, a rabbit hole where everything around them is negative. And it's simply because they just feel like a little fluffy, or they're, you know, they don't want to wear a certain thing or do a certain movement because it makes them, like, you know, when I don't want to get too personal with people, but like, I'm not going to go. Never mind, I'm not going to go there. But like there are.
Are you sure?
Yes, there are ways that people carry themselves very different when I know that they're lacking confidence. And I think at the end of the day, I want to almost go to that person and say, like, hey, no one's looking at you, right? They're all working out. You know, like, let's not, you know, keep like tucking your shirt in case someone might see the bottom of your stomach when you go upside down. Like, nobody's looking, dude. You know, like, it's okay if you put a little weight on. But I think if how you look is changing how you work out, and then it's changing how you act when you go home and you have to make that food decision, I think that's when, you know, chasing after body image is a really dangerous thing.
Good point. Yep, I would agree with that.
So the last thing I'll say negative of body image is fake results. And I'm going to say funny. So I actually want to do an episode on this one at one point. I'm not a huge like juice cleanse guy, but I have a coach now, and he told me to do a cleanse because I had some like physical, mental issues last spring. And I did a 5-day cleanse and or detox, whatever you want to call it, where I didn't eat for 5 days. And other than just like this like syrup that you put in water. And I've had a few people do it from here. And it was more about getting some inflammation out of my system, de-stressing my body, and sleeping better, all that good stuff, right? And it helped. And I lost 16 pounds in 5 days, which is a lot. And it's not a weight loss gimmick. You gain 8 back the second day you're eating. So don't go down that path. But I remember how, like, looking in the mirror after those days, I'm like, holy crap, like, I look like ripped right now. I haven't looked that ripped, I think, since I don't even know when, maybe ever. That's not a real result, right? If I was like obsessed with wanting to look that way, I'd be like, dude, I'm going to do this all the time. As miserable as it is to not eat for 5 days straight, if I really cared that much about my body image, which I don't, I care about performance. I did this to help my performance, and it did kickstart some good performance for myself. That's a dangerous thing. That's why I don't really push these like don't eat cleanses on some people, because you're going to look better. You're going to see a lower number on the scale, but is that a real result?
That is a very light version of what some people go through in terms of how they mismanage their body, how they mistreat it. You can go all the way down, eating disorders, you name it.
I mean, I could see where an eating disorder can start from doing a cleanse.
Right, because if you saw a little bit of a result from something that you did, wow, doing so much more of it must be better.
Right, like I'm going to the beach next week. I'm not going to eat this week. You know, like you're really not supposed to do those things that much. Like you could 24-hour fasting, 36-hour fasting, you could do that every week, but it's not for the sake of looking better.
Right, and so you have to realize when these behaviors become detrimental.
Yeah.
But that's where our rational side has to come up, because our animal brain will say, oh, I look better. Must do more.
Yes. Right.
And you have to think about it and say, listen, this is clearly not healthy.
Having good people in your life that know you trust, and will be honest with you. You know, like I think that's one of the biggest missing components to friendships and healthy relationships is hard honesty, stuff you don't want to hear.
And support. You know that if you know that people think you're great and you look great and they can be honest with you about that and you believe them, that means a lot.
I agree. Dangers of chasing after performance or over chasing performance. I think this is more common in CrossFit, but tell me if I'm wrong. When you're only chasing after performance, I think it usually leads to overtraining. And what overtraining leads to is eventually injury.
I think, well, if I say you're wrong, will you get annoyed with me?
No, not at all.
I'm just kidding. So I think one of the things that I see about CrossFit athletes, I don't want to say it's an addiction, but working out brings a lot of joy to people.
Yes.
And being able to perform at a high level brings a lot of joy to people. And I can think of a couple 6 a.m.ers who it's so hard for them not to work out.
Yeah.
And so they will come rain or shine. To perform because they know they can perform, and they will push it past whatever warning signs they might see.
Right.
And
I've done that several times.
And so have I. And at that point, you take a small thing and you make it a big thing.
Yes.
And I think we all get burned several times before we realize how to deal with it.
Yeah, I strongly agree with that. I know that, especially morning people, you know, and those are our biggest classes, right? And I think, again, for you anti-CrossFitters that haven't seen the light yet, you know, most fitness classes are busier in the morning than they are at night. And I think part of that is routine, kids, jobs, but I also think it's a great way to start your day if it's something that kind of gives you like a boost in confidence. So if you're a performer, right, you're here for performance, you want to get after it. It makes you feel good when you go out and destroy a WOD where, you know, if you're competitive and you're beating other people in the class, or you PR something, or you do movements that you used to not be able to do and you're kind of really getting after it, it makes you feel good. And for the rest of the day, whether you love or hate your job, it's almost like the rest of the day never can be that bad because you started it off in a really, you know, accomplished manner.
You know, I have a perfect example for you. I just told you about it this past week. The workout with the overhead squats, run, row.
Yes.
And I had tweaked my left calf last week and I was taking it easy. It was getting better. And, but I know that sort of combo, you know, doesn't necessarily make it feel great. So, but I really wanted to do this workout because I'm pretty good at overhead squats.
Right.
So I did the workout.
I'm very good at overhead squats.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Thanks, I appreciate it. So I was leaning into my strengths, not working on my weaknesses.
Yeah,
let's put it that
which
way.
is fine.
So I was working out late with Jason, great athlete.
Very good.
He's getting better every year.
Yes, he is.
Because I drop in on
quietly too.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So he's like stealth, but you know, I drop in on the 8:15 p.m. class every so often. Where he's a fixture. And it's just, you know, basically the two of us and athlete. And I start the run and I'm pushing off my left foot and I feel that left calf tighten up again. And I'm like, oh man. And I was like, okay, so the smart thing to do would be to walk back in.
Bike instead of run.
Yeah, sub in the bike instead of the run. And I said, well, first of all, then I will not be able to compare my score to Jason. I know I can beat him on this. I started slow on the first round, but it was 4 rounds. And I said, and
5. 75, 95. 4.
4. And I said, you know what? I know I'm going to be able to beat him at the end because I can do the heavier overhead squats. So I basically heel ran.
Yeah.
Heel
I've done
walked
that so many times. I've had calf issues.
on the 400s, and I, just so that I could, one, beat him, two, say that I could finish the workout because I really wanted to finish under time cap.
Yep.
And so I did both.
Yeah.
I beat it. And Jason's like, good job. He went home. Next day, he's working out. Next day, I'm like, I can't work out.
See, I took 2 straight days
I took
off.
2 days off. And so I basically, classic example of dangers of performance.
Yeah. I mean, my next 2 points were doing things you can't handle or recover from. All right, I'm going to get that in a little bit, but also just becoming too competitive if you're only here for performance, right? And that's an example of both happening at once. What I mean, doing things you can't handle or recover from, I think right now, I think people need to know that doing a workout, RX, or going after a workout, that's fine. But if you can't recover, like if you have a weekly plan to work out Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, right? If you go after this workout on Tuesday, crush it really hard, you're really sore, but you're so sore that you can't work out Thursday, even after your rest day Wednesday, that means that's not a good job.
Agreed.
All right. So now, and we can both say that we've done this several times. There's people in our gym that do this all the time. It seems to me they're not looking at it from a week perspective. They just want to go after it hard today, and something happens because they did that and they can't work out for 3 days. So even though you crushed the workout, it doesn't matter because you didn't recover from it. Recovery is part of the workout. I think we need to kind of accept that. Recovery is part of your workout. If your recovery does not occur to the point where you can't work out, you need to change things, and
you know what? Listen, we have both said multiple times we're guilty of the same thing.
Yeah.
We're not telling people.
Yeah, we're never talking down to anybody here.
Like I'm still, just this past week, I'm still doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a hard lesson that I have to keep trying to beat into myself.
Yep.
Which is why we're talking about it.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna, again, why do we start the podcast, Sam? To help people out.
And ourselves.
So many, and ourselves, especially ourselves. All right. Anyway, so now let's get away from all this negative crap. Okay, the positives of changing after body image. There's a lot, and I think there's maybe even more than performance. I have one of the biggest things. Let's talk about this. Is just increased confidence, and if you're happy with how you look, or you think if you're happy that you're on the right path to looking the way you want to look, right? Like if I ever chase after a look, I just want to look like I work out. Like I don't need to be the biggest, don't need to be the leanest, don't need to have the lowest body fat. I always want to look like, all right, that guy works out.
You're fit.
Yeah, he's fit. And part of that, and I know it's the industry I'm in. I'm in the gym industry, so I always feel like it's ultra important. If you're going to be in the gym industry, you need to look like you work out. Like I hate when someone's really in the fitness industry and they look like they've never done anything in their entire life. I just don't get it. And it makes me more confident day to day. Like Brian DiCarlo told me, Brian DiCarlo is one of the very few people in the gym that have known me since I was in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And he knew me. We played sports together, junior high, high school. We knew, kept in touch a little bit after high school, not a lot. And now he works here, and he goes like, "You are so different than you were in high school."
Oh, you are certainly the best version of yourself now than any pictures I've ever seen of you.
Yeah, and a big part of it is older, getting mature, caring less about what other people think, blah blah blah. But part of it is, like, I'll be honest with you, it's how I feel like I look better, and I look healthier, I look fitter. And, I don't want to say that's been my fuel to my fire, but it's definitely a part of the equation. And the increased confidence I want people to be as confident as possible. I really do. Yes, there are people that are overconfident. I'd rather deal with that than someone that's not confident enough.
I would say so the first thing is that, I can relate to you in terms of, you said being in the fitness industry and looking fit.
Right.
Like, I will say that as a plastic surgeon, looking fit establishes way more legitimacy to when I talk to people about body contouring or how they look than before. And I've had a couple of people say, well, yeah, I saw someone else and they were really like unhealthy and they looked awful.
Disheveled, yeah.
And they'll say, okay, I'll do liposuction on you. And they're like,
interesting.
Like, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
So the other thing is having more confidence about yourself is extremely important. And I will tell you, I don't blow smoke up people's butts, but I do often make it a point when I see someone who has made a lot of improvement in the gym to go out of my way and tell them so.
Right.
Because honestly, when other people, like we talked about other people noticing, when someone does notice that you've made a lot of progress, it can be very uplifting.
Yeah,
especially
absolutely.
when you put the time in every day and you don't know that, maybe you don't see the progress for yourself as much.
Right.
When you do get someone who says, listen, you look great.
Yeah. Like, what have you been doing? What have you changed?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That can be one of the biggest lifts you can have.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And having that increased confidence and knowing that you are perceived as looking fit allows you to feel confident in what you wear, how you act, even how you carry yourself.
Yes.
I would say
how you interact with other people.
How you interact with other people.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things I love about our gym and our athletes is, I mean, not to brag, but I think they carry themselves differently. I think they feel more comfortable about their bodies, and not because half of them wear like barely any clothing. I think they just are very comfortable with their bodies.
Yeah.
And being able to feel confident about how you look,
usually does bring out the best in you.
It projects well.
Yeah. Now, another thing that comes from chasing after body image, I actually think, when it comes to your diet, if you're really chasing after a look, and we have to keep in mind the sensitivity of like eating disorders and starving yourself, like what I talked to you guys about when I did that 5-day detox, that aside, okay, I think that if you're really chasing after a look, it probably makes you put a lot more attention on eating right, because we've talked about this all the time, you can be the hardest worker here for an hour a day and come every day, but if you don't do stuff well outside the gym, you will not see it in your look. And I think that if someone really wants to look a certain way, they want to be lean, they want to look good with their shirt off, or the famous line that I hate is, I want to look good naked. But if you do, you have to eat well outside the gym.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it was interesting. I read an article about these fitness models and how they live their life. And they said before a shoot, if I go, I can't drink alcohol. Right. I can't go on a weekend bender.
Right.
I can't eat, I really severely limit my diet to healthy stuff. Mm-hmm. And when you're a fitness model, it's not like a regular model. Like, you have to eat really healthy, like a ton of protein.
Yeah,
like,
you have to eat.
Yeah, like you have to eat real food in real quantities and, like zone style type of eating.
Yep.
And when I read that, I said, these guys, they worry about what they're doing in the gym, but before shoots, they really focus on what they're doing outside the gym.
Right.
And if those professionals have to do that, well then, that's just a small part of what we have to do on a daily life. And if you want to go on a weekend bender, that's great. But just know, you do that every weekend or more often than not, like,
it's going to add up.
You shouldn't think that your body's going to look as awesome as it could.
Agreed. Last one on the positives of body image. I actually think that when you're really looking at body image, I think it's going to help you recover day to day. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I think you're going to be putting a little bit more attention on your diet, like we just said, and a lot of attention on your diet does help recovery. But I also think with like what you're doing exercise wise, right? Like if you are only chasing after a look, no, you want some longer, we've talked about this, Sam, in regard to performance, but I also think it helps a lot of body image is longer endurance type workouts where you're burning calories for a long time. You're not going through 1 minute spurts and then a 4 minute rest, AKA like a heavy lifting session, right? I think when you are moving your body for a long time, you're circulating a lot of blood. It's going to help increase, the outlook of your body from that superficial perspective, rather than, just trying to go hard for 2 minutes, breathe really heavy, get the heart rate up to 195 and then come back down. I think what it can do is it's going to open the door to that kind of fitness where there are so many benefits to long, slow workouts, especially if you're a CrossFitter, because you don't do them in classes that often.
I think a good example is Matt Frazier. So he had, when he won his 5 CrossFit Games championships, he looked the way he did because he wasn't he didn't care so much about his body image. He was training for performance, eating for performance, working out for performance. Now that he's quit, if you've ever saw his Instagram, he looks more ripped, more defined. He actually hit a PR on his deadlift because he doesn't have to worry about 15 other metrics that he has to chase.
Right, he can just focus on it.
He can just focus on whatever he wants to. And a lot of it right now is, and so he's probably, if you asked him, healthier now
for sure
than he ever was chasing his 5 championships. And not that, we should try to be Matt Fraser, but when you are focusing on your health for your body image, that's completely different than performance. Like, for Matt Fraser to get to where he was, he sacrificed a lot and didn't give one whit about how he looked.
Yeah, and we've said this before, the further into the sport you get, the further away from health you're getting.
That's exactly
and
right.
I think everyone needs to kind of keep that in front of their head. Positives of chasing after performance. One thing I like about chasing after performance is, in my opinion, all right, it's the results are much more objective. We could talk about Matt Fraser getting a deadlift PR, right? That's an objective. I hit a PR. I've never done this before. And fitness to me is always, what can you do with your body? Fitness to me is not what you look like. And I think what you look like can be a positive bullet point under what you're actually doing, but because all the stuff that is encompassing with pursuing performance. But if someone hits a PR, whether it be a time in a workout or a weight on a lift, that is, again, a confidence booster. It's an objective result that nobody can argue against. Because I'll tell you what, there are people that probably think they look good, that there's someone out there that probably doesn't think they look good, right? And so it's subjective. I just think like looking good is very subjective, where a PR is as objective as you can get.
Yes. I think from a self-esteem standpoint, it's so much easier to say I hit 300 pounds on my back squat.
Yeah.
And therefore I am I am performing. I am an athlete.
Right.
I am a strong person.
Yeah.
And those are metrics that I think almost all of us in the gym look at.
Right.
We base our self-esteem on how fast was our Fran time? How fast was it compared to so-and-so?
Right. Did you qualify for this? Did you qualify for that?
Right. And that's a lot. It's true. You can work on those things, and it's a lot clearer than, do I look better than I did a year ago? Do I look better than that person?
Yeah.
How many compliments am I supposed to be getting about my look?
Yeah.
And I do enjoy getting objective results. I think it does play a big role in terms of how I look at myself and my self-esteem. I was thinking about this. I was going to ask you a question, but I mean, there are some limits to both. So, for example, I was going to ask you a theoretic. So, if you could hit a 300-pound snatch, but it meant adding 3 or 4 inches of fat on your waist at that time.
3 or 4 inches is a lot.
Okay. All right. Whatever. 2. Would you do it?
Right now, yeah. Right now, I would. Okay. 300 pounds is a lot.
Even if you got a gut, like a little gut?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Did I lose any muscle ups? Did I lose?
No other performance. You just look a little crappier in your gut.
I would. Right now, for what I'm trying to pursue, I would. Because, especially the snatch, like that's like something that's holding me back so far.
Right.
But I'll say once I'm done competing, and I've talked to Ash about, the thing is, I'm a little different in that, not better or worse. I'm just I really want to qualify for things.
You're very performance focused right now.
I am 100% performance focused.
Yes.
But I might be done with that next year. Like I've had discussions with Ash about that. Like I'm all in right now in a year until the end of next year's online qualifier, and I think she's looking forward to the day where like, hey, I'm just going to work out with the class once a day, 5 days a week, and that's it. None of this like plan around this, plan around that, going early this time, going back at this time. And at that point, I probably would not.
So it's funny because I think it would be a good litmus question to ask a lot of athletes. Like,
that's a good question.
Would you drop 75 pounds on your heaviest lift if you could lose?
Yeah. And honestly, yeah.
And see what people say.
When I'm done competing, I think that's a great question, Sam. I really do. But I'll say this, if I'm not trying to qualify for like the highest level in the sport, then I would say I'd rather lose some off my snatch and my muscle ups and maybe be a little slower and feel a little better, look a little better.
I think half the gym would.
I still always want to be able to kick your ass, though. That's the thing.
Well, that's a given. Dude, I'm 20 years older than you.
Oh, age is a number.
I would say my guess would be half the gym would trade some performance for body image.
That's a great question.
And half would trade some, vice versa.
Yeah.
Like, I think it'd be interesting to see which ones would trade which for which.
It would. And honestly, like that could even shift some of our programming, right? Like right now I will say the programming at Bison is more performance centered than it is aesthetics. And I know that bothers some people, right? Like see some people doing like ab mat sit-ups after every class, like that's going to help. But anyway, just kidding. But there is a lot of truth to bodybuilding. It can help performance big time and safety, but I think a lot of people want some extra bodybuilding work for the sake of just looking better and not feeling like they're going to die after a workout. And I do think it's something that you just saying that right now makes me want to kind of ask some people that, like, would you sacrifice some performance if you look better? You can keep it anonymous too if people are too embarrassed for the answer.
I think the programming for 90 to 95% of our athletes is perfectly fine for their aesthetics.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I think there's probably maybe 10% of athletes out there who feel like they need
different program,
slightly different.
Yeah.
But they're already hyper focused on certain aspects of what's going on in their life. For the rest of us, like just being able to come in as many times as we can during the week and do what we can do is going to reshape our bodies appropriately. And I don't want to say that, these 10% are weird or crazy. No, they're just hyper focused on certain things.
Yeah.
But listen, let's not fool ourselves. Like for the rest of us regular people, like I don't have to do anything super special to change things to focus on certain things.
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I have written down here, and it's a positive performance, but I made an asterisk next to mine is, I hope everyone can make their goals internal. Meaning I don't want you only seeking outside validation for you reaching your goal. And it's really tough to do that in the social media stage. I get caught up in it sometimes too, that if you do want to chase after a certain look or a different look or improve your look, or you want to chase after a certain level of performance, improve your performance, I want you to be confident in that decision. But again, it's like a lot of things, you need to be aware of what you're pursuing. Like being kind of like, oh, I'm a little bit of both. Like, yes, everyone is a little bit of both. But I think if you can kind of reflect on a little bit, what are you really pursuing more of? I think it can kind of just put you on the path towards getting there. Where if you have no idea, or if you never put any thought into this, again, I see people stressing about like their times and their double unders like every week. And I'm like, you don't really care other than just wanting to look good. So, and you look great. Yeah, you had a bad double under day. You look great. You got your workout in. Like, but if someone's really like wants to compete, wants to do performance, then you approach that person a little different. But I think that your ability to mentally train yourself is a lot easier once you really know, like, all right, do I want to kind of push towards aesthetics a little more? And you can go back and forth, right? Like, I think the CrossFit calendar is set up perfect for the Open comes in February. Once the holidays are over, like, let's go performance. Let's go performance. Like 2-3 months, just that's it, 2-3 months. And then once the Open's over, it starts to get a little bit warmer outside. Beach season is coming up. You want to look a little bit better, go for it. Like one of my training partners, I don't get to train with her that much, but I competed with her, Nicole Nidomaya. She's getting married in a couple of weeks, and she works with a nutrition coach for a long time. And that nutrition coach, they've always been performance, like a lot of food, a lot, and she works out really hard. I've always thought she looks good, looks like an athlete. Leading up to her wedding, I think it's been 6-7 months now. They said like, hey, I want to look a certain way for my wedding. She's leaner than I've ever seen her.
Really?
Yeah. And she looks awesome. She's going to look amazing. She's going to be a beautiful bride. But she said, 2 weeks, like after the honeymoon, it's back on. Performance.
Because she probably lost like 25 pounds on her clean and jerk.
Yeah. And still clean and jerks more than me. But she's an amazing athlete. I think she's the best female athlete I've ever like personally been around and trained with. And they're going to go after it one more year for the Open before some other life things probably occur. And she said the second that stuff's back, so once they get back from their honeymoon in October, it's back. Like her entire shift, everything's going to shift. how she works out and how she eats. And then, yes, how she looks will be different. She'll still look like an athlete. But she wants to perform at a higher level, lift heavier weights, be able to recover because she wants to be able to go after it day after day. That's a huge part of training. It's going to be, she's going to look different than she does right now. And she's okay with that. That's her decision.
I think you mentioned how it is helpful mentally to go back and forth and between the two and think about it.
Yep.
And it's okay not to necessarily know for sure which way you're really thinking about it.
Yep.
It is good to ask yourself these questions and think about it. But I was just thinking about someone who is doing both right now. Scott Sweeney.
Yeah.
I laid off for about a month on vacation.
Yeah.
And when I got back, like the past couple of weeks, we're always kind of pretty close performance.
Yep.
He's been crushing me every time.
Yeah.
Every time. And not just like effortlessly.
Yeah.
Like I'm on the ground dying and he's like, all right, great workout. See you guys.
Scott's had a really good year with CrossFit.
And his body also, like he had just had kids. He was sort of laid off for a while. He's like a fire chief or something like that.
Yep.
And so he's really busy.
Yeah.
But
odd hours too.
Right. Yeah. And I don't think he's really chasing his aesthetic or necessarily performance. He just shows up and he gives it his max effort.
Yeah.
And guess what happened? Both got better.
Yeah.
He looks better and he's performing like amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had so many people say that to me over the past 5-6 months. It's like, dude, Scott's crushing it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It kills me because I work out right next to him.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for him and I'm also mad at him at the same time.
All right. Yeah, so that's going to wrap it up, guys. Body image versus performance. Again, a really good conversation to have. Not really going to get you guys answers. That's not really the point of this podcast. It's to create some reflection for yourself. And again, Sam and I, among several other people at the gym too, would be more than willing to have the conversation with you if you think it's going to help you out. Just kind of clear the picture out a little bit. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.